composition is something that I have a love-hate relationship in terms of like talking about it, because if you look up composition online, it's all rules that seem bogus.
Huh.
You know, like tangents, and this line has to line up with this line. It almost becomes like conspiracy, like drawing triangles on things. They're working backwards from an image that works. And I find it difficult to explain to artists how to create an appealing composition that isn't just a bunch of rules that are all BS. I don't know. What are your thoughts on it?
Yes, I have a lot of things to say about this. Let me pull up my screen.
Got it.
All right.
I see your screen. Awesome.
Okay, cool. So I did this at a workshop, and I just wanted to. I think this image is a good way to explain what composition is, because for composition, it's not just in a vacuum. Because in the old days, they would just say, okay, make a nice composition where you can see the things, right? So there's the character here, and there's the mountain, and there's like the castle they're going to in the distance, right? And the castle is maybe silhouetted against the light background, and it's dark, and the person is silhouetted too. But composition is a lot of times about like telling a story, and we say that a lot about like, oh, telling a story, what does that mean? But it's just a way to say someone is doing something. That's it. Someone is doing something, and that something they're doing, you can read it, meaning you can see it in the composition. You don't need it explained to you. So someone thinking about what job they want next is not visual. You can't see it, so it's not a thing. But like a guy walking through an environment with a gun, and the gun is held down, and he's walking slowly, you can see that, and you can know I'm investigating the space. So I did this little scribble over thing, just to use a photo. So this is just a straight photo, okay?
Yes.
And this paint over here, on top of it, you can see there was just a bunch of choices made about, and this is just to show you the kind of thinking that I would have about composition. And I'll turn these on and off slowly so you can see the differences. I used, it's not a finished concept, of course, it's just a scribble, but I did a lot of things that look like they're not on purpose, but they all had extreme intent. Okay. They were all designed around telling a story. And the thing is, in concept art, people are like tasked with doing an environment of a mountain scene. They aren't tasked with telling a story. But the difference about One Pixel Brush is we're always going to add a story, no matter what, because it's fun and it's cool and it makes the image fun. It makes the image fun to look at. But on top of that, it gives you a reason to do things. So right here, like we have like these pools of light, right? And we have this mountain up here. And we have this just, it's just a nice vista. But as soon as you say, okay, I'm going to have this rider in this scene, right? And he's going to be racing to get to some barn in the background. And that's not a complicated story. It's a guy going somewhere. It's a horse rider, and he's obviously heading to this location. Well, then, as soon as I decide that, I can start making decisions that are going to really dramatically affect the composition. Like, okay, this pool of light's going to be here. Why is it here? It's here so that the top of his head can be silhouetted. Why? So he can be a first read. Why? Because he's the main character. So then, once I have that, it's actually not that complicated storytelling. It's basically, most people can't do it that well because they're not dumb enough. You have to be really dumb. You have to just be dumb in your head. Like, the guy's head, it's dark and it's on light. It's not that complicated. And then, visually, there's a dumbness to, okay, this log used to be just a stump, right? It used to be a stump. And now it's not. Now it's a log. But the reason it's a log is compositional reasons, storytelling reasons. Okay, this is a guy going to this, but this log is heading the same direction as he is, and there's another little broken piece right here. It even has this little notch in it, which kind of breaks it up a little bit nicely, adds a little bit of interest, but doesn't stop the momentum of this log, which also keeps your eye in the picture. Keeps your eye going where we want it to go. His goal is the farmhouse here. Well, if the goal is the farmhouse here, I'm using the pieces that I have. Like, here are the pieces that are on the board. I got light and I got trees and I got stuff. So, okay, if I can have light, then I'm going to light this side of the barn so that it has a nice little contrasty read because the guy is going this way towards it. And I want that to read. And it's kind of light against these trees that are dark. So when you zoom out, you kind of see this guy really clearly kind of going from here to here. And then these trees, well, they're on purpose. The cool thing about trees is they can be anywhere and they can be any shape. So trees, clouds, grass, organics are really good for building a composition because you can put them anywhere believably. Because you see, you can only do it with pieces that make sense. You can't make this a giant robot that helps the composition. You can only use the pieces you have on the board. And so with trees, it's all about keeping your eye on the composition. And then it can't be too regimented too, right? You can't have a tree that's like this tree and then the cloud is here. It can't be too even. There has to be a randomness to it so that you're leading them into the composition without being too obvious. So that was why the break, I wanted to make an arrow, but I wanted to not let the audience know that I'm making an arrow. These trees just felt like that these trees couldn't be here by themselves. So just like Bob Ross, they need a little friend right here. And they couldn't be the same distance. They couldn't be the same distance. And I'm explaining things that are really innate, right? These are things that just kind of, I was doing them, and I'm trying to reverse engineer them because when you're making it, you're just, especially when you're doing it fast, you just put things where they need to go. And you don't think about it too much. You just know, like, you put this here, and in a split second you erased it, and maybe you put it here, in a split second you erased it and put it here because you subconsciously knew that this needed to be close because they couldn't be even. And then a big old tree here, nobody wants to go over here. This is like no man's land. This is like, don't go here. Keep going this way. Move along, buddy. And then there's also this water. You can see that wasn't in there, but it's cued off the water that was there, so it feels believable, but it's more water. So in case you do get sidetracked and your eye goes over here and adds a little interest, you'd be like, nope, get back on the train. We're not going here. We're going over here. We're going to the story. And if your eye got tempted to go out of the picture because there's some cool stuff happening up here, we're like, nope, you're not allowed. Stop. Turn around. Turn around. Head back this way, eye. Head back this way. So good compositions, there's a shitload going on that is like really subtle, but the tricky part is if you are starting to make a concept and you don't know where the dude or girl is going and what they're doing, then you don't have a reason to make all these decisions. Therefore, you won't. Therefore, it just won't look like a composition that's anything because you don't know why you're doing it. So the reason we always add a story is not just because it's fun to see a character in the shot or a stick salesman standing there looking off in the distance. It's because telling a story gives the picture meaning. And it doesn't matter if you're only hired, the job they asked you to do is just to paint a mountain landscape. Adding that one little bit, no one in 10 years has ever said, we asked for a mountain landscape, not a dude going to a barn. No human can look at something with another human story and say, I hate that,